Thanks for staying with us. Former Chief Justice Sandile Ngcobo is to head an independent panel that will decide whether there is a case for President Cyril Ramaphosa's impeachment over the allegations that he covered up a robbery at his Phala Phala game farm. National Assembly Speaker Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula announced the three-person panel yesterday evening. It also includes Judge Thokozile Masipa and UCT law professor Richard Calland. The panel have 30 days to report back to the Speaker. The panel was appointed under the terms of the National Assembly's Section 89 process dealing with the removal of the President. This followed a motion for the President's removal by the ATM. And of course, this particular story has also been making the headlines. Let's now speak to Mbekezeli Benjamin, who's a researcher at Judges Matter. Mbekezeli, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Let's first start with your reaction to the composition of the panel.
Well, as Judges Matter, we are a little bit disappointed that despite our warnings, the Speaker went ahead and appointed included two judges on this independent panel. We had previously argued that it is not a good idea to involve judges in such a politicized process. We believe that the rules of the National Assembly were very clear that legal experts were required for this panel, and they may be judges. So it was optional to include judges, and we did raise a concern that to include judges would be including them in a highly politicized process. So we were hoping that the Speaker would actually move to include other legal experts other than judges. So we are encouraged that a law professor was included, but we are disappointed that nonetheless they still included two judges.
So I take it then a lot of concern then around, the judiciary descending into the political arena, as you say.
Well, it seems as if we are arguing that judges should be included less and less in highly politicized issues, but it seems that the sentiment is to drag them more and more into those kinds of things. So we are really concerned about that because it has wider implications for the judiciary. As you know, this kind of process does attract some political contestations. We are aware that there are parties who've already spoken against this panel, so we wouldn't want judges to be seen to be involved in this, particularly if there is an option not to include judges such as this one. So we would have preferred for there not to be a judge on the panel at all.
And staying with the judge, before we move to Professor Calland, there have been some who are saying that, Judge Thokozile Masipa may not be the best one here, given, her ruling in that Oscar Pistorius matter. Some have really said that this prejudices her and does not make her a competent individual in their view. I wonder, what are your thoughts on that one?
Well, I think those kinds of criticisms are unfair. That one single ruling that they cite is a single ruling out of a career of about 20 years. So Judge Masipa was a judge in the Gauteng High Court since 1998, and she retired in about 2018. So she had been a judge for 20 years on that court, and she had given many, many judgments, many of which, even when they went on appeal, they were upheld by the appellate court. So the higher courts believed that she had taken the correct decisions. But like any other judge, there will be one or two or a few that are overturned. And that one high-profile case that people cite is one that the public recalls. But it doesn't say that she is incompetent at all. In fact, she is a competent judge.
I know you say that, it's good that there is one legal mind that is going to be part of this. And some have, come out guns blazing against Professor Richard Calland, saying his colors are nailed to the mast. They don't see him, being somebody with credibility, given some of his views that he would have expressed around this particular matter in the public domain. And given the fact that the test for bias, perception is one, of those things. How much of an impediment can this be to the work of this particular panel?
Well, I think this again speaks to the highly politicized nature of this kind of process. In as much as Professor Calland is a person who's written quite extensively in the media and his opinions are well known, it might be unfair on him to say that simply because of those previous writings, then he will influence this panel to behave in a certain way. You'll recall that he is one voice among three others, so he would have to convince the two other judges to decide in the way that he sees things for there to be any allegations of bias against the whole panel. So in a way, yes, he is an outspoken person, but I don't think that his views must necessarily be taken as that of the panel, especially because they haven't even started their work yet. So to accuse the whole panel of bias might be a little bit premature.
And Mbekezeli, you know, Section 89 is very clear and lays the ground very clear of how, you know, the act of misconduct, the grounds and all of that. I mean, you're looking at the serious violation of the Constitution, serious misconduct, inability to perform some of the functions of the office. And given the reaction that we've seen in the public domain about this composition of the panel, both saying it's a good, you know, a panel, a good composition, others saying it's not. How important, though, is it going to be for these panelists to make sure that this process is not tainted in order to ensure that, you know, they free it of any controversy?
So the important thing that must come out of this panel is a report that makes it very clear that this was the allegation, this is the evidence, and applying the evidence to the allegation, this is the outcome, which is whether there are prima facie grounds or preliminary grounds of impeachment. That is the most important thing that must come out of this process. So for this panel to have any sort of credibility is that they must produce a report that is able to withstand scrutiny. So it must be rational, it must be logical, it must provide a legal analysis of the evidence and the standards that are set by the Constitution in terms of Section 89. That is the ultimate outcome that we're looking for in this panel. There will be different views on the panelists themselves. Like you said, there's already views about Professor Calland, there's views about Justice Masipa, but at the end of the day, we should look at the product of the work. So if there are any flaws in the report that is actually produced, then we can start to criticize the work of the panel and whether there is any tainting in the process. But before we see a report, it's very hard to say that the process will be tainted in any way or it will not meet the standards of Section 89.
Indeed. Let's see then, as you say, Mbekezeli, what kind of report is being produced here. But thank you so much for your insights this afternoon. Do appreciate them. That is Mbekezeli Benjamin, a researcher at Judges Matter.